And just like that, the entire State Department. No, let's move on. How you doing? How's everybody going? Sorry, I know it's a bit of a jerk move. But speaking of jerk moves, Brad Marchand. Huh? All right, so let's. We got lots to discuss today. We've got lots of rumors. We got lots of things going on. We are so happy that you joined us today. And is this is this in the right place, Mike? Is the right thing embedded in my blog? Because right now I'm seeing no. Oh yeah, there we go. 8 viewers. Sorry, that went from 0 to 8 really quickly. Usually we get like a jump. So that was just making sure. Now we're at 25. Excellent, you guys are joining the flies. We appreciate it. I apologize. You never know. Sometimes we things can be embedded. I've been wrongly embedded myself a few times, but I'm bummed. All right, so the Leafs are in town. Man, there's so much going on. Holy cow! The Maple Leafs here in Philly. Oh, okay, so much to get into. And Peter Tessier is joining us too, so that's going to be fun. And he'll jump in when he gets here. Of course, it's Winnipeg, so it takes a while for the signal to get there, but he'll get back to us.
There's a 2-hour delay.
Yeah, it's only the speed of light. Yeah, so does it ever amaze you, just as an aside, I know, Mike, you deal with this because you help me with posting blogs, and so we have to log into the posting, not blogs, but posting these kind of shows, and you have to log into my account on YouTube, and we get sent back a verification code because I have, does it ever amaze you how fast verification codes come?
They come ridiculously fast.
Before you can even press for them, it feels like they're there. There's no way.
No, just the advent of technology over the last few years. Now you can watch streamed video on your smartphone with no hiccups, no problems. Whereas 4 or 5 years ago, it took 2 minutes for it to upload, and then it would shutter for 10 seconds. It would stop, and now it's smooth.
I just discovered the greatest technology known to man. I don't want to have too much of a build up for it, but
pretty bad so far. Mm-hmm.
In a bag of Tostitos, it will now include a breathalyzer.
Wow, that's smart. You mean Doritos?
So every drunk at a Super Bowl party can now blow into their bag of Doritos, and if it comes up green, then technically they seem to be okay. If it comes up red, then it's don't drive, and then there's also a
no, that's totally different. That's hilarious.
There's a $10 coupon for Uber in there.
And I thought this was Dorito breath you were talking about. I thought this was some kind of thing that you would put in your mouth to get rid of Dorito breath, which is a real thing.
And
if a great invention, and does it come with a handy bite too? That's what you need. Doritos are so messy and disgusting, but you have to eat them. But you can only eat them alone. That's my theory.
And if they throw up in the bag of Tostitos, you know that you're drunk. But no,
yes, that's true. And it won't be any additional cost.
That's a Mexican party, Mike.
There won't be any additional cost. No, so there you go.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Colleges will be swallowing these Doritos like crazy. Tostitos.
Well, it's fun. It's funny that we bring up Uber. We'll just be brief about this because I know everybody wants to talk about hockey. But
do they? Yeah.
Because in Buffalo, in Western New York, there is a battle about Uber being implemented. I think Uber is in New York City. I know Uber is in Toronto, but it's not in the upper.
I don't know if it's in New York City. Is it?
Okay, then it might not be. But apparently, everybody thought it was an insurance issue that was preventing Uber from being in New York. Apparently, one of the biggest lobbyists against Uber is the DWI attorneys because they want people to be busted for DWI.
Really?
So they get work.
So they get work. It would cut into their bottom line for them to have Uber drive people safely home instead of being out on the road. Now, I'm sure that's not going to be publicized.
Yeah. That is something. I've had such great experiences with Uber. I can't even say. It's just I know people have had bad experiences, but I had one the other day where I had to drive. I didn't have a car, so I had to get to a car dealership. And I went to pick up my mom, go to lunch with her and stuff like that. So she'd help and have somebody go to the car. You should go to a car dealership by yourself, So I would go with me and everything. But so the Uber takes me all the way from here to get my mom. And then I'm like, oh, it's fine. I'll just get another Uber. And then he takes me for free back to the car dealership. It was just amazing. I was just
nice. Although my car dealership will do that for nothing, but whatever.
Yeah, I know that's probably true, right? But by the way, Mike, I heard a song that you would like, and I want to give get on with it for this. But
Is it the Grinch song? I know the Grinch song.
No. Dara Williams. You familiar with Dara Williams at all, Mike? I mean, she's in your wheelhouse. Okay, she's in your.
I've heard her. I like her.
We saw her Friday night in Philly. I saw her in concert. One of my wife's favorite people. And really a sweet woman. I've known Dara Williams for a long time. And she has a song. So you have any of her stuff, any of her albums, or anything like that?
I have downloaded a few songs.
Okay, yeah. So you know the one called Southern California Wants to Be Western New York?
No.
It's a great song, and I just thought about it. It's so funny because it says it's on. There's if you Google it, so just Google Southern California Wants to Be Western New York. There's a YouTube with the words, and it's like for a person who lives in Western New York like you, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's just.
Okay, I'll check it out. I had never heard of that one, but I'll check it out.
And Eric Duhashik, the great Eric Duhashik, who now does a music podcast. I found out.
Does he?
He's doing a music podcast on a local radio station.
I miss Eric.
Didn't we talk
about doing this with him?
I miss Eric. I used to see him at events, and I would chat with him.
He's gonna come on the show. I was talking to him. He's gonna come on.
Good.
He's a good Cranky Hockey Radio show that is on it's 4-year hiatus, but we'll be back eventually. But the Cranky Hockey Raiders, which is Eric, Duhashik, Kevin, and I just realized we weren't cranky enough, so we stopped for a while. But now we're getting crankier again, so we're going to start again.
They brought me on the show, Russ, so I increased the crankiness.
Yeah, you did. Will and Grace is coming back, so you might as well bring that show back.
Oh, Lord. That's so funny. This is my prediction. At the turn of 2000, we all had to do one prediction. I was at this party, and they predictions were that I said that in the next 20 years, you will see a return of major sitcoms from the past, like Cheers, Friends, Will and Grace, things like that will come back because why wouldn't they, right? It's like there's so much money to be made. I mean, and TV is so sucky.
Yeah. I
mean, although I am doing a new show.
I'll tell you what my prediction was in 2000 because I remember we were making them.
Yeah.
And this is no joke, and it has started, but it hasn't gotten big yet. I was thinking about starting an e-funeral company because let's face it. Most people don't want to go to funerals, but if they could sit at home on their computer and Skype themselves in, they certainly would, check in the service and maybe post something nice about the person that's gone. And it still hasn't hit big. It is starting to happen, but I think in the next 10 years, it'll happen more.
Yeah.
So you're going to email condolences to people instead of actually going to a wake and going to a funeral?
No, you won't have to email them. You could log in, Mike, and watch the service and post on the page. Maybe it'll be like a nice, like instead of calling it a message board, a memory board.
I have a website that I'll tell you guys off the air that I've been working on for a while that is dead serious. It's not along those lines, but it's something kind of macabre-ish.
If it was along those lines, I'd have to sue you.
Wait a second.
Yeah, no, it's not that, but it's really something that I've always wanted to do, and it's just kind of, and it's something that I'll bring up another point. But what I wanted to say, first of all, new show, Odd Mom Out, Bravo, really hilarious show for what it's worth. Just a stupid sitcom, but like a good one. Odd Mom Out, good show to watch with your significant other.
Russ, he just said
you can watch it by yourself if you want.
Russ, he just said dead. He just said dead serious.
But I'm bummed. Well, one thing that matters, I was thinking, Russ, when you thought about one thing that matters with an e-funeral type thing would be download time. You got to keep that.
That's a good point.
Yeah. You don't want to be you don't want to have that little circle spinning when you're waiting to die.
But here's the thing. Well, no, you won't have to do it while you're waiting to die. You may have the circle spinning while they're possibly dropping them into the earth, and that's okay. I don't think there's no rush there.
Well, it would avoid those spreading of the ashes scenarios like in The Big Lebowski where he gets it all in his face.
Yeah, good point. I do want to be married. I do want to be married. I am married. I do want to be buried.
I don't.
Buried with my laptop and my iPhone because it's pointless. Like there's nothing. And plus the stuff on my iPhone would give TSN a world of love for the rest of their lives. So anyway, let's move on to the show, right?
Yes.
I invited Peter Teche. Hopefully, right about that thing working its way across northern Minnesota.
Yeah, it takes a while.
He'll be here.
Let's see what happens. All right, here we go. Ready? It is. I got it. Hello, Hockey World. It's Thursday, January 26th, 2017.
I'm Michael Agello.
Oh, hey, I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Yes, he is. And I am Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday, and tomorrow I'm going to be able to afford to buy my contact lenses again, so I'll have my glasses back. That'll be good. But we're coming to you now. Lots of stuff to talk about today, and I want to start with of course, my inevitable. And I got lots of people. I appreciate all the people who watch the show and send me little notes, because this is really people again.
They send you notes on our behalf, and you just don't tell us.
No, they're notes to me, and often they're about you.
They don't care about us.
Yeah, but most of them are about you. So
hearing them. But this one, this was not about you. This was just a note sent to me, and they said, you are the most incredible prognosticator in the history of time, because what did I say last night before the Flyers-Rangers game? I said, this game sets up for the Flyers in every which way. And it didn't make any sense because they don't play well against the Rangers. They're in New York. They haven't played well. They've only won one of their last 16 games or something like that. It just didn't seem like it would make sense. But yet they come in and they pretty much, you were there. What was it like?
I don't know. I just got invited to the Maxim party. It flashed upon my screen. That took my attention away. Sorry.
This is the NHL Maxim party?
I don't know.
Okay, hold on one sec. I got a quick story. I
didn't open up the email. I guess I'm going to open it up.
Really quick story, hockey related. Okay. So my first year I'm covering this, I got invited to the Victoria's Secret NHL party. And I'm thinking, man, oh man, this is why I got credentialed. I'm like, this is the deal. I'm going to New York. And it's in New York, and it's not going to take me. It's a come, hang out with Victoria's Secret models and NHL players in this in a bar with a free open bar and food. I mean, is there anything else that you need in this world, right? So I'm off, right? So I go to New York, I get there, and literally it was in one of these high fancy dancy New York clubs. And there weren't many reporters on the list. I remember checking it, and like I forget whatever Mark his name was. I think back then he did the NHL. Was like, oh yeah, I'm glad you got here. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't miss this for the world. How many people are here? He's like, yeah, quite a few. I'm like, was there a press area? He's like, no, you're just allowed to party. Go have fun. I'm like, wow. So anyway, I'm in there with beautiful models, and in pulls a limo. And out of that limo comes a very young Jeff Carter, Mike Richards, Scott Hartnell, Scotty Upshaw, basically the fabulous five from Philly that were all young.
Yeah,
and they're all wearing their like flannel shirts and jeans. And I'm of course in I spent a lot of time at these kind of parties, so I know what to wear. I'm looking good. They're there, and they come in, and literally to watch these like 19, 20, 21-year-old guys walking in like from like the Canadian Plains into a party of Victoria's Secret models was the most hilarious moment ever. And it was just so funny to watch them. They were like just their jaws watch how uncomfortable they were. These NHL players in that situation. But so that's when I saw your thing. I just thought to myself, wow, that's got to be like.
This was a Super Bowl party, so
there you go.
If this were 1985, I would have gone because like I was in Houston then, but I'm not in Houston now, so I probably won't go. So Rangers Flyers. So
Flyers.
This was the interesting dynamic. We kind of figured yesterday that it would be Mason, right? And then we found out for sure it was Mason. And we said, I remember I said, and you agreed that, hey, we think he plays pretty good at MSG, and so. That first period, the Rangers did hammer Mason pretty good, and Mason really maybe played his best first period of the year, I think.
He did.
And that was a big deal. But the weird thing about that game was neither team ever had any real offensive flow. Neither team really got anything going. Like they would get a few shots, 3-4 shots, it would stop for a while. Everybody was doing like this was like the prototypical put your stick in the lane and knock the puck 3 inches up the ice kind of game. And everybody was doing that. So it was hard to get anything near a net, and then everybody was blocking shots, right? So that was going on for a couple periods. And then and the Rangers failed on a couple power play attempts, and that was a bad sign. And then the Flyers really got it together. And it was funny because I had posted on Facebook, next goal wins, right? And technically it did, right? Because the Flyers scored that next goal, and then they scored a few more. I looked at that game and I said, that was a game where the Flyers won a battle of the will because they were being outshot. Although I'm not a big shot guy. Like it doesn't matter to me if you're getting outshot 45-1.
Right.
If you're not, there's no score. Who cares? But they also, they were away. It was an away game. They had been having some goaltending trouble. And even their defense played a lot better. Provorov played a heck of a game. Like, he was really great. This was a big deal for them. I mean, their penalty kill was great. They had a 2-on-1 chance on a penalty kill, a shorthanded chance that Lundqvist stopped. So, overall, I thought one of their probably top 3 games of the year. And
yeah, and good timing for them, and the kind of thing it just felt like it was a situation where they had to win. And if they were going to have a season, they were going to have a real run at the playoffs. This was the game they had to show that they could, And I'm still not positive they can make a real run at the playoffs. But if they didn't win this game, they weren't going to. Like this, if they didn't win this game, to me, it felt like they were just going to be, and probably overstating it, but you know what I'm saying. There's that momentum thing that goes. And they needed to be able to show that they could beat the Rangers in New York, and that Mason could play the kind of game he played, and all that stuff had to work in sequence. And that Provorov would have the big game, and Simmons scores the big goal. It was all the things that the Flyers look for. It's all the things.
I think that was crazy about the Simmons goal was like the Voracek goal. That was like a pinball goal, like that could happen. But Simmons, they left alone by the net, even on a penalty kill. You cannot leave Wayne Simmons alone. There's plenty of other guys on the Flyers you don't have to have a guy next to. But if Wayne Simmons is on the, at the hash, he's in the blue paint, somebody has to be there. And there wasn't.
Players on Braden Shen in front of the net. And that
was crazy.
Right before that happened, and Braden Shen, is just who really is so slumping because on that play itself, he can't get control of a puck that is so easy to get control of. But because he doesn't get control of it, it ends up on Simmons' stick. But yeah, it was crazy. I mean, they were, so that puts the Flyers back into the wild card race,
Well, let me just say this. There seemed to be an extra little level of frustration on the part of Lundqvist, especially after that second goal, the one that went off of Grabner's leg. I mean, he sort of like swiped at the puck and was really, really pissed off. Yeah. And, I think that was the fact that the Rangers, I thought, had the better of the play in the first 2 periods, and they didn't get the lead. And not to say that
there's nothing more frustrating than the other goalie playing out of their mind and then you giving up a goal like that,
Yes.
Because that really just shows that you're, and especially for Lundqvist, a competitive guy like Lundqvist, he's like sitting there and Mason's outplayed him, and Lundqvist does not, like to get outplayed at all, right? He does this.
No, he's fiery that way, and that's partially what makes him great. Now, we're expecting Steve Mason will be the guy today. But there's no announcement yet, which is
there's no announcement yet. Now this is tonight you have a battle of basically a real wild card battle. Like this is definite. Even though the Maple Leafs right now sit with 55 points in third place in their division, they finally are actually not in the wild card. They're actually jumped up to third place because they've been doing what they're supposed to do with their games at hand. So they've been taking advantage of these games at hand and moving up the standings, but. It's 55 points for them. It's 54 points for the Flyers. They still have 3 games at hand on the Flyers.
Again, not to take any credit away from the Leafs last night because they played very well in Detroit. Frederik Andersen got his second straight shutout, but they've played 2 teams that are in real trouble right now. They played Calgary and Toronto. Now these are the games you have to say, these are teams that you should beat, and they did. But I'm saying, like when they come up against tougher teams, like they haven't played Columbus once this year. So, their schedule is going to get a lot tougher, and they're going on the road for the next 5 games. But that might be good news for the Leafs because they're like 9-0-2 in the last 11 road games.
And also who they're playing too. They have owned Philadelphia last little while here. They really have. They've played the Flyers extremely well. Even last year there was a famous game last year towards the end of the year that the Flyers absolutely had to win, and the Leafs took it from them at the last second. There were the Leafs the way the Leafs speed is really troublesome for the Flyers defense.
I think it's the heaviness of the team. Again, the Flyers don't do well when they play a bigger team going up against their defense. The Rangers are not that bigger team. They got a couple of big guys. They got like 3 big guys, but the Leafs are bigger and heavier. And I think that's what will cause a problem for Philly tonight more than even Austin Matthews or anybody else.
Well, the one positive for Philadelphia, not to say that he can't have a good performance, but it's McElhinney in goal and not Frederik Andersen. So in the second of back-to-back,
positive for them,
right. But what I just said is right on target in terms of the Leafs. Right now, they're beating everybody with their team speed. I mean, in spite of the fact that Morgan Riley has been out, their defense really hasn't been exposed as much because they're just flying through the neutral zone, feeding the puck up the middle or feeding it down the boards and putting the other team on the defensive, and they can't put a forecheck on them, and they can't they can't counterattack because the Leafs have been too quick. So it's interesting to see how this is going to go on, because they're playing like this right now, 45 games into the season, and whether they can carry this through 82. You got a lot of rookies there, a lot of players who haven't played in the NHL before, and if they can keep this up, then yeah, they'll make the playoffs. But I'm still a little skeptical about whether they can keep it up.
Sure. I think we all are. I do want to mention to the audience that Peter is on hold with operators because he's trying to get his WWE Survivor Series thing set up for this weekend, and he's having a technical difficulty with it. He doesn't want to miss Chris Jericho, who's from Winnipeg, and so that's the big deal. So hopefully when we get it. Now,
Come on.
Now, Eck, we looked it up. Mike and I looked it up because we couldn't remember who Chris Jericho fought with in the charity game. It was Dennis Leary.
Oh, Dennis Leary. That makes sense.
And they pretty much stripped, and then Chris Jericho rolled around on the ice half naked, and again. I could never.
There's nothing psychological to go into there.
Dennis
at the Staples Center.
Dennis Leary, who's a big Boston Bruins fan, and who I'm sure is happy today that Brad Marchand did not get suspended for his slew foot on Nicholas Kronwall.
Nice transition, Mike. Yep. This is a $10,000 fine, which is the maximum fine you can get. This is to me. I'm going to do a Facebook Live on this after the show. This to me is one of the most frustrating, ridiculous things I've seen in a while. This is completely and utterly a suspendable play. This is an intent to hurt without the puck even being near you.
Well, what I don't
$10,000 fine.
What I don't understand is that it was announced late in the day yesterday that he was going to have a hearing. And normally when there's a hearing, there is a suspension. Very rarely. I know it's the phone hearing. Usually it's 4 games or less, and the in-person hearing, it's 5 games or more. I didn't hear a phone hearing or in-person hearing, but I did hear there was a hearing. So I immediately thought he was at least going to get 1 game, and then he got nothing. And I'm like, okay, well, then they must have said this was not
very strange. It was as if they were watching the show yesterday here when we said there's no hearing. It's ridiculous. They can't.
Right.
And then immediately there's a hearing announced. And then just absolutely absurd.
I heard that Brian Marchand is now getting billed. He's getting back. He owes back payments now for $1,700,000 in previous slew foots. So we'll see what happens with that case too.
Wow.
Because you figure if it's 10,000 a slew foot now, he was good for a few.
Exactly. And come on now. This is it's a good point. I like that. This is totally ridiculous. I'm sorry. I just don't understand it. We've seen this play before. We've seen other players get suspended for this before, so I don't get it.
Peter had to go to the bathroom. Just letting people know.
Peter alone.
We're just giving everybody updates on Peter's coming in and out of the.
I'm here.
So Anderson with back-to-back shutouts, like you said, Mike, not playing tonight. That's a little strange, isn't it?
No. They actually have a backup goaltender that they can depend on.
I know, but normally you do stay with the high.
Stay with the guy with back-to-back shutouts, is what X saying.
On back-to-back shutouts, I think. There is such a thing as riding the incredibly ridiculously hot goalie.
It's not above.
No, I think this is a very Babcock move. Rotating. I'll never. This was.
But they don't have it. Is this the last game before the All-Star break?
Yes.
So you don't really have to play McElhinney.
And it's not a game against
the team. This is again okay. All right, we're throwing the backup thing out there again. Okay, I'm looking at this through Flyers glasses, but this is a terrible move. All right, because if I'm not looking at this through Flyers glasses, this is a terrible move. Because the fact of the matter is, this is a team that you are battling for the playoffs. This is a game you have to. If you're the Maple Leafs, this game could matter at the end of the season in a huge way. You do not want to just give the Flyers 2 points. Giving the Flyers 2 points could knock you out of the playoffs.
Well, just as a mitigating circumstance, Anderson late in the game was bumped into by Darren Helm of the Red Wings on a breakaway. He was fine. He finished out the game, but honestly, their season. If your goal is the playoffs, their season is riding on Frederik Andersen staying healthy. And in back to back,
play one more game, Mike. One more game.
Played 3 games in 4 nights.
3 in a row. Andrew Raycroft when he was
off after this, probably something like 6 or 7 days off after this.
A million years ago, when Mike Sullivan was the coach of the Boston Bruins, Andrew Raycroft played something like 20-something games in a row.
Where is he right now?
It doesn't matter. You're telling me 3 games in a row is going to tax the man. Come on.
All right, well, let's bring in Peter Tessier.
Yes,
no, it's not going to tax him, but it's the long-term effect.
What is
If
the
he plays
long-term
70
effect?
games, if he plays 70 games, then you're going to really see a breakdown.
The long-term effect is
Play
golfing in the
70.
beginning of April. That's the long-term effect. Okay, like you cannot. Your team has to win. This is a really important game for Maple Leafs, and they are literally. I mean, unless they just don't care about making the playoffs, this is a huge game for them.
Well, no, okay. I want Peter to chime in on this, but do they want to make the playoffs? Yes. Are they going to go all out and do like ridiculous things to make the playoffs and hurt their long-term focus? No, they're not going to do that. They're not going to make short-term rental deals, and they're not going to play Frederik Andersen like Lindy Ruff used to play Ryan Miller every game. It's not that's stupid.
This is Bobby Bolin territory where he's playing 68 or 75 games.
He's on pace. He's on pace to play 67 games, something like that, Russ. They've got
control that later in the season, especially if they fall out of it.
Well, but he's going on the assumption that they're not going to fall out of it. So I mean,
but this is like a chance where I don't know. We talked about this.
You're in it right now. You don't know if you'll be in it then. That's the argument. We'll see what
the guy is riding over 250 minutes of shutout hockey. So it's like, come on, that to me is the other aspect of this. Like I remember as a kid when the Flyers had their 35-game undefeated streak, right, and that was going on, and it was phenomenal and exciting, and they had Pete Peters and the ancient Phil Meir, right, who was really just like was so very very old, Pete Peters was a rookie, and they were alternating. They alternated the entire streak, if you remember. They went back and forth and back and forth. Now, as a kid, thinking that Peters was way better, which he was, than Phil Meir at that point in his career, this was really incredibly nerve-wracking because you wanted the streak to keep going, and they alternated and alternated and alternated and alternated. But then you had the excuse that you could say you had an experienced guy and a rookie guy, and they were both obviously winning because the Flyers weren't losing. So this is, I don't know. Let's back up with this backup.
Okay. Forever. The plan going into the season was to have the backup goaltender play in the second of back-to-back. The Leafs had the second most back-to-backs in the NHL, 18 games. They couldn't do that because Jonas Enroth was 5'10", and Mike Babcock didn't like the fact that he had a short goaltender, so he started playing Anderson both ends of the back-to-back. Now they have a goaltender who in his first game as a Leaf won. Now they're going to use that guy in the second of back-to-backs. It doesn't matter that Frederik Andersen has 2 shutouts in a row. They want to keep him long term of this season. And if the team can play well in Philadelphia, then they'll get a win with McElhinney in goal.
I mean, they might be able to get a win anyway, but the fact is, it's just I don't know. It's just risky. Let's move on. Let's get Peter's thoughts on Brett Marchand getting the $10,000 fine.
Yeah, well, it's the NHL player safety, like the Department of Inconsistency department.
This was an intent to injure. This was like a complete and utter play. Puck was nowhere near it. He thought there was no ref watching him, and he went and took the guy out without the guy looking. It's just another thing that I don't try to make sense out of what they determine things on. Because if you look at it from a fan's perspective, it doesn't make sense. If you try and look at it objectively as a sort of a media observer perspective, it never make sense. And if you look at it from the team's perspective, it never makes sense. They're all competing interests in what makes sense. What the Department of Player Safety never does is look at it, what's the best thing for the game of hockey. And that's what they always miss. So they missed this one too. No, I agree.
10,000 means nothing.
They could have suspended him for tonight. They played tonight, right? They played tonight.
Yep.
They could have. And you still have him in the All-Star game. You don't have. You could even just a 1-game suspension would have been something. And this has to be just has to be. Anyway, today is Gretzkymas, the birth of Wayne Gretzky.
Mike doesn't care.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday to the great Wayne.
Mike hates him.
Yeah. The great one who actually has lawyers who keep anyone from using that term has a birthday today. So there you go. We actually tried to do a contest one time called Beat the Great One, and which was like a thing where you would pick guys to get their streak. It wasn't like a piñata. It was something where you had a streak, and You try to get a guy who would score a point every night and try to beat Gretzky's point streak. And we had to take it down because of the grape. We couldn't use the term the grape run. Anyway, just saying that. All right, Cam Atkinson has been added to the All-Star team. We talked about this yesterday.
It was between him and Grabner. We all felt. You know, again though, in the spirit of the All-Star thing, and of course I'll sound homerish. Now that you've got 3 Jackets and 1 Ranger, like it's just what happened to the balance? We kept hearing about the balance. Yeah. Mike kept talking about the balance when we brought up other players, and it's like, no. You got to have a certain amount. And I'm thinking, okay, look, Atkinson is definitely having a better year, but the Rangers only have 1 guy in. I mean, clearly, you know, a guy like Lundqvist is always an All-Star, but he's not an All-Star this year. And so now you've got 3 Columbus Blue Jackets. All right. That's fine. I like Cam Atkinson. I think he's deserving.
I mean, I guess it's acknowledgement of the streak more than anything. But you know, I mean, they're pretty close in points. I mean, right now it's pretty tight between the Rangers, the Blue Jackets, and the Penguins. So I think that sort of counters the fact to have 3 Blue Jackets rather than just 1 Ranger. I mean, I thought Grabner's having a pretty effective year. And as I've said many a time, I'm very happy that Grabner's having that year this year with the Rangers than last year with the Maple Leafs, because if you had this year last year with the Maple Leafs, Austin Matthews would not be a member of the Maple Leafs.
True, but if they kept him this year, it would have been interesting.
Well, they wanted to keep him in a way, but they also said, Babcock said when New York was in Toronto last week that, you know, they wanted to keep him, but they had so many rookie wingers that they really, you know, they wanted to give the young kids a chance and let Grabner go to the Rangers, and he's reaping the rewards.
Right.
Hey, Mike, I just thought about this. Austin Matthews has played a lot of games in a row. You sure you want him playing in the All-Star game?
Yes, but he doesn't play 60 minutes a night, Mr. Cohen.
Listen, but he real about something.
Goalie. He takes more of a beating than a goalie takes. I mean, he might not play 60 minutes, but man, goalies
aren't playing all 60 minutes.
Yeah, they're just stopping pucks. I mean, I know it's tough, but you know, hey.
Wow.
Anyway, let's move out to the division. That Peter knows a little bit more about than us, and that is the Colorado Avalanche have now not won since December 11th in regulation. I mean, that's quite a while ago.
And that game, I think, was against the Toronto Maple Leafs. In
regulation, it may have been. And today, it turns out that Semyon Varlamov will miss the rest of the year with an injury.
A groin injury. It's a groin injury.
He's gone. Now I heard he's getting hip replacement surgery.
I see. I heard. I thought I saw in the crawl on NHL.com it was a hit. It was a groin.
I don't know.
Right. I mean,
I'm not sure. I have to look into it, but I thought it was a hip replacement thing.
And it's ironic if the Leaf game that they won 3-1 was the last time that they won in regulation. Varlamov made 52 saves in that game and was the only reason that they won the game. I mean, if there was never any doubt that this team is going to dump big time in terms of at the deadline or in the summer, but now this is one. Now they'll be playing Calvin Pickard and Spencer Martin in goal, and they're making the full run for Nolan Patrick.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, this is the most baffling thing to me, Peter. I mean, what are your thoughts on this team? I mean, what's going on?
This is a franchise that needs a complete and utter reset. Like it's just not working. They tried. They did the playbook of bring in legacy people. Bring in names to keep the fans interested. The nostalgia of Joe Sakic and Patrick Waugh to keep people in. It didn't work. You need to start from the top. You need to bring in your president of operations, who is not attached to the franchise in any way, shape, or form. You now need to go get a GM that is not attached to the franchise in any way, shape, or form, and you need to build a hockey organization from the ground up. They've whittled away at so many aspects of it, and they've failed. They've failed in so many different ways that they're approaching Edmonton Oilers failure methods, clinging on to things that didn't work.
Yeah,
that's what they have to do. They have assets. They have a team. They have good assets in there, surrounded by a lot of junk. And frankly, it's a reset point. And if you're going to go all in for Nolan Patrick, then you reset. You reset everything. What do they have to lose? Are they going to turn it around and run Varlamov's going to get hot next year and guide him to the playoffs and unorthodox goalie pulling with 4 minutes left in the game like Patrick Waugh did?
Right, like they I know, but this is a team that if they get Nolan Patrick, or if they probably should get a defenseman with that pick if they get there. But
I've got news for you. Nolan Patrick isn't what a lot of people think he is. He's in my backyard here. There's a lot of stuff that comes around.
What are you doing with him in your backyard?
What is it that you think he is? I'll ask you that question.
I don't think he's I don't think he's a Nathan McKinnon.
Okay.
I would say the jury's out on that one. I wouldn't say that yet.
That's opinion, right? It doesn't mean, and like most of my opinions, they're not usually right.
but I'm curious.
I would say he's probably not a Nathan McKinnon,
right?
But he could be. But I don't think he is. And I think if Nolan Patrick is your clinging to hope, and let me be really clear, hope is never a plan. That is going to change it around. I think you're doing it the wrong way. That's the Oiler way.
But here's the thing, though. He is a big man up the middle. He's not going to have, and he doesn't have McKinnon's speed, but he does have a similar skill set to Matthews. He's not a Matthews, but he has a similar skill set to him with that size, with the ability. Like, he's come back from, his layoff, and he hasn't missed a beat.
No,
like,
he's clearly the number one guy. I'm not debating that.
No, I know.
And so
in the future. I'm looking forward. I'm saying, hey, he's the number one guy. He definitely seems like a first liner to me. To me, if they got him, they still don't have to get him and then fully reset. If they get him, it definitely solves another problem. My thinking with this team is, I just looked up Nathan McKinnon's contract. They literally have until 2022. Yeah. That's what they have until, because if they don't get it straightened out by then, clearly he's not going to be there anymore and he'll go somewhere else. And so if they reset now, it could take 4 or 5 years of that McKinnon contract away, and I don't think they could afford to do that.
Well, they got McKinnon on a bargain. I think he's making like 6.3, which for him,
right, which means he'll never sign for anything close to that again.
Right, but the thing is, and Kevin Allen made this point when we had him on earlier in the week about, they're probably going to make some sort of big move either now before the deadline or in the summer. But if Sakic's place is tenuous, if they don't know whether if they're not sure about him going forward, if they're planning on hiring a new GM, then the last thing they're going to let him do is trade Landeskog or trade Duchesne before March the 1st, when they'd rather have the guy who's coming in, who's got the fresh perspective, making the decision of whether to move those guys, because those guys, they're young enough, they're good enough, they're talented enough that they could be part of the plan going forward for the Avalanche. Right now they're saying it's only McKinnon and Rantanen that they're going to keep. I mean, then you're talking about filling 21 spots on the roster. I mean, that's
But here's the thing, though, and this is, I always bring this up. You go back to most of these trades where teams trade away a great player. How many of them, when they're getting multiple players, because you got to fill all these spots, right? How many of those times are those trades beneficial? I mean, I can think of a couple that were beneficial, but most of them are not. Usually when you lose the great player, you're getting a bunch of okay players in return, and it doesn't necessarily make you better. This is a way to get, at least if Patrick's not going to be the franchise center, because clearly McKinnon is, he's that 1A. You need that. Go look at every great team in this league. You need those two great centers. Now, if you get Nolan Patrick, then you really can trade Matt Duchene.
No, you do, and you can, and they will.
Right.
They will, because I think that's
the key.
If Patrick is indeed, and by the way, the last time that worked out for a team was Colorado.
It was, and that's exactly who my thought was. Yeah.
Yeah, that did with Lindros being traded and all the players they got back for that.
But how often does that work out?
But it's incredibly rare. But I think the thing is this: do you think now, Peter, in your mind, that he is and Russ as well, but since he is in your backyard, which is scary in and of itself, you got to let him go. But no, but since he's in your backyard there. Do you think he's like the unquestionable number one as well?
I think so. I don't think there's a lot of excitement from other players that are potential, top 5 picks that are going to unseat him. I think he's got it pretty locked up, and even with his injury, no one was really questioning it then. Someone's going to have to do something pretty spectacular, and I think a big Canadian center, that there's a premium for that. There's a reputation, deserved or not, that comes with it, and you get that, you're going to be number one.
Yeah, I think Hischier did create a lot of excitement at the World Juniors. I saw it, but now that Patrick has come back strong, he's got 17 points in 11 games. I think he has held on to his spot for sure. The top prospects game will be another time for him to shine, and I think if he does that, he'll be the leader. But I think Hischier has did make it very close with him out and having such a great World Juniors with a team that really isn't a fantastic team in the Swiss.
The only thing that can affect things is if Patrick gets hurt again.
Right.
If he gets hurt again, then people are going to get scared away a little bit about his injuries being,
depending on the injury, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a recurrence of whatever happened to him previously, or if he has a knee injury or something. Or
if he gets mono, he'll be like a second-round pick.
Mono is terrible. He can't come back from mono. Anyway, so I want to talk about a little bit of Winnipeg here. The goaltending situation. Peter, go. So I have to say,
so Connor Hellebuck is back in the net against the Blackhawks tonight. He is 2-0 against them. He's been fairly strong against them in his career when he's faced them, the few 60-odd games he has. The Winnipeg Jets planned on having problems this year. They knew they were going to get that. Mm-hmm. What they didn't plan for was goaltending to be the main one. And I think they expected growing pains in other areas, but I believe they thought between Hutchinson and Hellebuck, we're going to be able to ride these guys for periods at a time and get through, and that won't be our area of concern.
Right.
Well, it's an area of concern, but there's a lot of areas of concern. Tyler Myers, who is out indefinitely, and here's a very interesting thing. I'll just go off on a tangent here. Myers had a bit of a setback, and apparently there's a family issue.
Okay. And
I heard this from Craig Heisinger in a meet and greet the other night, and he said if any one of us were going through it, we'd have absolutely 100% understanding why Myers is not around. So something very serious is going on there. So all the best to Tyler Myers and whatever it is. Here's the thing. He's missed 35 consecutive games now.
Wow.
All he has to miss is another 25, and he can be put on the exemption list. Ask for an exemption from the expansion draft.
Oh.
Interesting.
It's not guaranteed, but if you miss 60 consecutive games, you can appeal to be exempt from the expansion draft.
Tied to that, Peter, I know I had not heard any kind of decision on those chronically injured players who are on LTIR of whether they're exempt. I know teams like the Leafs with Nathan Horton, or I know Mark Savard's contract is up. I know Pronger's, but there are other ones. David Clarkson. Whether those players are going to be listed as exempt, or these teams, because I know with Horton or I know with Clarkson, he had a no movement clause that he waived to go to Columbus.
Right.
I think that would mean that Columbus would have to protect them if they didn't get the exemption. I haven't heard anything from the league, an announcement from the league that these players have been decided that the exemption is the.
There has been no decision. It's just a possibility. Teams can apply, or the player can apply, or something like that. But it's just an interesting thing. But the goaltending thing in Winnipeg it's a gong show right now. The Pavlik move, and what happened? They called him up. Social media went bonkers. Everyone said Pavlik's not the answer. Blah blah blah. Why are we jumping off Hellebuck? We were patient with Pavlik for 5.5 years. The whole point of bringing Pavlik up was not that he was going to solve problems, all of a sudden miraculously turn into an average NHL goalie. It was to deflect everything away from Hellebuck and give the kid a break.
Right.
This is a between the ears thing. This is a work on your mental game. And you guys all know it. what players talk about the most, other than the physical side of things, it's the grind, the mental grind that they go through, and what you have to do to adjust and manage your headspace, how you look at games, how you look at your daily tasks.
Yeah.
And Hellebuck wasn't there yet. He was being ground down. They had to get him out of that.
And that's apparently what's going on in St. Louis with Jake Allen. Apparently, it's more of just a mental break than anything. I mean,
although he's still not playing. They're not playing him again.
But Carter Hutton got a shutout against the Pittsburgh Penguins.
I know.
The savior.
I know. Here's the thing. I'm looking at Winnipeg, and I don't want to be mean to fans because I know they're really anxious to make the playoffs, and I know on paper they're only 4 points out. They're not making the playoffs.
No.
They're not. Like, there's too many problems there. And so I think what they have to do is they have to be good sellers this year and not be so high on their price, but get some things that they need. They really need to go shopping, and they need to move out some of these older guys, Enstrom, whatever. They got to move out some of these guys now and make room for other players and sort of mix it up a little bit. And I think they have a good opportunity to do it because there'll be teams desperate for – like someone will be desperate for a guy like Enstrom just to run their power play if they don't feel like their power play is good going into the playoffs. Get assets for these guys, but not just draft picks. Get some actual bodies.
Well, I think that scenario is there's a number of teams around the league coming up to the deadline who are similar to that. And I know that like Bob McKenzie talked about it last night on NBC about the Flyers, and we've talked about it before about them having a lot of young defensemen in Lehigh Valley, and having Streit and having Delzato and having Schultz as UFAs. The Detroit Red Wings, who the Leafs played last night, Brendan Smith, Vanek, Steve Ott, they have a couple other free agents. Don't hold on to this dream of making the playoffs for the 26th year in a row.
Is Mike Green a free agent after this year?
I think it was a 3-year deal. I think he's in year.
Okay, so he's got one more year.
Got one more year, but right now, in terms of teams out there looking for defense, they might take him for an extra, with that extra year left.
Right.
But the problem is that Detroit, if they trade him, they don't have a defense. They have Danny DeKeyser and they
have a new building. I don't think they could trade Green. I don't.
Right, but they can trade the pending guys. They can trade the UFAs who are expiring contracts and then sign them back in the offseason or find somebody else in the offseason.
Yes.
But while you have the opportunity to get assets, you get them. You have to get them.
Winnipeg's got to get some guys that are NHL ready but not getting a chance on other teams. That's the only kind of defenseman you could really get. And they do need a couple of those guys.
And Winnipeg's pipeline for defense is abysmal too.
It is. It's not great.
It's not good.
Yeah, that's an issue. I mean, and I've heard. I mean, we've heard lots of names tied to them. But I think at the end of the day, what's interesting right now is you're just getting basically Laine trying to will this team into the playoffs. It seems he's had such a great year that he has that superstar quality that is undeniable. And basically, when you have a player like that, you're always in the battle. Now, whether or not they're going to make the playoffs or not, you're probably not true. But
Peter, the thing is, I look at Winnipeg in the same thing that I look at Toronto, where they're so loaded organizationally up front. And I actually think Winnipeg is a little deeper on defense, but I think, for them to solidify themselves on defense and maybe in goal, maybe they have to sacrifice one or two of those prospect forwards to get the pieces that they need to be a more complete club.
Yeah, I think they do too. I think they have to take a really good hard look at what they have, how redundant some of it is, and start realizing that you've got players that are probably maybe better fits in different situations. And speaking of that, Alex Burmistrov is a point of game player in Arizona because he's getting a chance. Even Paul Maurice admitted that. And they couldn't even get a pick for him. Like that's mismanagement too.
Yeah. But it's also an opportunity thing. Like in Arizona, he has all the ice time in the world because they can give it to him.
You couldn't get a 7th rounder for him?
I mean, you should be able to get something for a talent like that.
Yeah, you should be able to get something for that. And that's the point. Like in Russ, and that goes back to your point. If you've got to do this while you can. And Burmistrov had value. He had a lot more value than he did by being put on waivers.
Yes.
And that's something that, you can't miss that opportunity. And I think, that's the fear if you're a Jets fan. Have they missed the opportunity? And, they could. I expect them to be very active on the trade deadline this year. I expect a lot of picks to be moved this year because the draft isn't particularly great. I can see a lot of picks being swapped around. I think the Jets have assets like Stafford, potentially Enstrom, depending on what he wants with his contract, and even maybe a prospect if the right deal is there for someone else. And I expect a few other teams to be like that as well.
But here's the thing. I saw the other day that in Calgary, like Glenn Gulleton has now challenged his team. Somebody has to step up. That was the big quote, right? And that's not Maurice's way. And so, but there are guys that I do feel need to step up on that team. Now, clearly not the youngsters. The youngsters are doing great. But there are other guys like, Little has not had the best season.
Since Little's come back, he's been on fire.
Right, since he's come back.
Since he's been back. Remember, he was out for a while.
Yeah.
He's been playing incredibly well.
Bufflin, not the best season.
Yeah.
I mean, they're definitely guys playing better.
I mean, Bufflin's like, he is what he is, right? And he also is a gamer. So like, there's going to be points at which
Stafford's on my roto team. He hasn't had the best season.
No.
Stafford. Well, that's sort of the subconscious thing. Bufflin gets the big contract, so now the pressure's off a little bit, and maybe the foot is a little bit off the gas pedal, so he's not playing with as much impetus as he did last year. Well, they can't. The difference in his play between what he played last year and what he played this year might be the difference between them missing and making the playoffs. He was a dominant force at times last year. This year, I haven't heard his name so much.
It's been in spurts. He's had moments of brilliance. He's had some good things, but he's kind of symptomatic of what the whole team's been.
Right.
Like some really neat things and flashes, but then just kind of all over the map the rest of the time. And when they're all over the map, bad things happen, and they're fishing pucks out of the back of their own net.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, there's a big drop off. Like once you get past Little, who, like you said, has been on fire lately and is sort of making up his season here, there's a big drop off to guys like Lowry, Patan. And I get they're some of these are younger guys, but they need more depth scoring, and they're not getting it.
Oh, exactly.
Yep. So let's jump into some rumors before we get out of here today. First of all, in the news again, it's been a while for this one, is Jordan Eberle. Now, Jordan Eberle has had a really rough year. Despite the fact that the others have been playing well, Eberle went quite a few games there, a couple months, I think, right, without scoring, or maybe a month. But he's
not playing with McDavid. It's right now. It's
playing McDavid, but still, I mean, you got talented players on this team, so you should be. And
that shouldn't matter.
Nugent Hopkins was struggling as well, and these are two guys who really need to score for Edmonton to be legitimate. I mean, right now they're being carried by one player too. So, but they're having a great season. Because that one player is just having a great season, but Eberle's a fascinating guy because he's sort of a cult hero up in Canada still. Like when you talk to people up there, from the World Junior days, he is like the Chris Drury of Canada, right? This was in a way.
Well, most years he's getting 20-something goals. I mean, he is a good player.
And he's been rumored to be traded every year pretty much, and he's always his name always comes up. Well, with Montreal now, it looks like, and this has been, I mean, all the times, this reminds me of other rumors in the past where, two teams are connected together and eventually it will happen. It's just a matter of when. Because I should do a list of this sometimes because there are rumors like this. Eberle has been going forever, and Montreal connections to Edmonton have been going forever with them wanting Eberle.
With Yakupov, too.
And Yakupov before that, too. But now, Galchenyuk goes down. Plekanec is hurting as well. And Montreal really sees this is a window season. I think they really feel like they have to make something of this year in the playoffs. And suddenly you have a playoff, legendary playoff player, or at least in the World Juniors, in Eberle, who's available, perhaps.
Well, okay. I mean, the thing is that with Galchenyuk down for the second time with Plekanec, and I saw there were indications that he was hurt. I didn't see any of the extent of the injury. Those are both centers right now. Philip Deneau is their number one center, and that's pretty bad. Not to say he's not a good player, but he's not a number one center, obviously. That would lead me to believe. I mean, Eberle is may benefit from a change of scenery, but he's a winger. He can't play center. He's not a center.
Yeah.
And we saw the rumor in Elliot Friedman's piece earlier in the week about Hansel, about the Coyotes were asking for a ridiculous amount for Hansel, but that's probably the direction that they're going to have to go, because they need reinforcements up the middle if Galchenyuk and Plekanec are down. I mean, if they're going to make a legitimate run and take advantage of a great year by Carey Price and having Shea Weber there, they're going to need some help up the middle. I mean, Eberle would be nice to have, but I think that they're going to use their assets elsewhere.
No, I think that's fair. And I think that, but the other team, of course, involved with Eberle, the reason I didn't get the story up yesterday is because I kept looking into it, was the fact that the Islanders have interest in Jordan Eberle. Now,
that makes more sense.
And it does. And I think, what is very apparent from my early research, and they're still 5 weeks away from the trade deadline, but from early on, what's really coming into focus is that the Islanders are going to be incredibly active at the deadline and not going to be even if they're out or in, they're buyers either way, is what I was told.
Okay, so here's the thing. So this could be a year where, the Islanders show this little momentum underweight, and we don't know if it's going to be sustained. It's not enough games yet. It's a small sample size. If they go Ryan Smith all in, they could kill themselves again like they did with Ryan Smith.
No, I agree. I do. They have, some prospects that they can move, but you're right. They have to be careful because if they remove the wrong prospects.
Well, I mean, and if we had Dan on the show, he would back this up. There has been a dip in the performance of Hamonic this year. I'm sure there are still teams interested because everybody's interested in defense right now, but they have such depth in their organization in terms of Mayfield, in terms of Pulock, that on the blue line, that they could maybe afford to trade a Hamonic if they think that they need that winger like Eberle to play with Tavares. I mean, they're fighting two battles here. One, they need to improve on the ice to try to make the playoffs this year. Two, they need to convince Tavares that they're actually an organization that has some foresight to get him to re-sign before he becomes a free agent. I think that's the bigger thing here, is that they need to show Tavares that they actually mean to be a contender, because right now they look confused.
No, and they have a very pissed off fan base, right? And that's the other thing that's going on too. And the Islanders fans, I can tell you from running a site with 30 hockey fans, around the league, Islanders fans pissed off are what you don't want to have happen, because they really do get crazy when they pissed off, and they really are at the point. This is an incredibly
They're frustrated. I mean, I get it. The arena hasn't gone great. Like, remember the heat I used to take when I talked about that arena and said, "Hey, it's not going to be full. Oh, it's going to be full. It's going to be full." It's not full. Now the ice isn't great, but it's good enough. Now the team, has suffered a little bit. Like, it's been a tough go for the Islanders since they moved to Brooklyn. I mean, let's be real about it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That whole move with the Islanders are a franchise that has historically needed, since the old Al Arbor days and stuff. They've needed a bad idea guy in the organization. The guy that says, when they sit down and go, "No, that's a bad idea. We need to look at a different idea. That's a bad one." Like, that's all he has to do. And the move to Brooklyn was a bad idea. Like, nothing comes easy for the Islanders. They complicate things. They do things weird. And I think if you're like, and I'll lay dollars to donuts that if they get down to the Tavares extension is there, it'll be weird too. That's just the way they do things. And
you're right.
Stop being weird.
A bad idea guy. I like that. You got one of those here. Mike's a bad idea guy for sure. Let's do some. That's just Mike Day. No, why not? Sorry, Mike. All right, so let's do a little bit of rumor charting here. So then we'll get out of here. So I'm going to give you 3 names today. All right, so here we go. These are the 3 names. First off, obviously we go to Nazem Kadri, and at this point, nothing's happening with Kadri.
I just have to say the campaign over the last 3 or 4 days since Kadri mentioned on Sportsnet that he wants to, I don't know if he said he thinks he should be in the mix for the Selke, but his goal is to win the Selke, and now there's talk about him being a nominee. I mean, I have to admit he's playing wonderful defensively. He's playing better than I ever thought he would defensively as a two-way forward, and he scored.
Yeah.
He has 20 goals. I just can't see Nazem Kadri ever getting a Selke nomination. So maybe down the line a few years, but no. But no.
When you look at where it came from, right? Where he came from, it's hard to picture that, but things do change. I guess the other two players are a little more interesting on this one. So let's go with Jarome Iginla first. And Iginla is, he's basically said he wants to go someplace. It's all but come out and said it. And he's going to go someplace. He's not going to, and he's going to end the year someplace else with a chance to win it. The Wild have been in there for a while. The Senators have been in there too. I like both of those teams for him. I think they're both interesting picks. But now suddenly out of nowhere comes the mighty and terrible and awful Chicago Blackhawks, who always seem to be involved in these things. And how, this is an expensive player, so obviously no matter who gets him, that the Avalanche are going to keep money, but they will. They're going to keep as much as they can, half or whatever the maximum is, right? So they're going to be able to keep that.
Yeah, I don't think the Senators are going to do it. I think that's why the Senators made the deal the other day for Wingles, because they're not going to add salary.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems that way as well. I would kind of agree with that. But I think
but the other teams, I could see them all. Yeah,
there are definite, Montreal has always liked him. I don't think that this is necessarily their first choice right now, but it is definitely a player they've always liked. Minnesota would love to pick him up. He's popular. And, there was the thought, that Calgary could get involved, which would seem like the perfect ending.
They're a tire fire right now.
They're falling apart, and maybe this is something that could bring him back in. But I think Iginla wants to go someplace where you definitely have a shot at winning it. And I think when it comes down to it, Chicago is obviously the best shot you have, because they're going to be there. They're going to be involved in it. And they're going to, and with Iginla, this is the kind of thing where Chicago has Iginla and Vanek at the deadline, and we're all that's what happens, right? So.
Yeah, but remember this. If it would probably be an either-or proposition, not Vanek and Iginla.
That would be either-or. I agree with you.
Yeah, but the thing is, they're looking for somebody to play the wing on the line with Taves.
Yeah.
And Iginla does not have the wheels to play on a top six role with Jonathan Taves anymore. I just don't think.
I don't know about that. I agree he's not that fast, but he's smart enough to make it work, I think. He doesn't, you don't necessarily need speed when you've got the intelligence that he has, to play the game. And plus, obviously there's a huge amount of respect with Taves. And again, I don't know, it'd be, and the other player is Martin Hansel, who we were just talking about. So I brought him up here. And, I keep hearing Tampa now. Montreal's on my list, of course, but I actually dropped it because even though I saw the Elliot Friedman thing, I still don't think that he's the right fit for Montreal in terms of the fact that he's really not a scorer at all. Like he's really
but I think he is a good fit for them because he's big and he has
but big for what end?
But he has a mean streak, and when the playoffs start, you are going to need big guys to push around guys, and he is another one like Shaw that really could help forge that. I think he's a good fit for Montreal.
He's a guy that if Montreal comes up against Tampa in the divisional final, will match up against either Tyler Johnson if they want to go big on small, or against Brian Boyle if they want to go big on big. So he's the perfect third line center for Montreal.
Yeah, but like you guys already said, he's almost their first line center if he goes there.
They're assuming
only today.
Right, they're assuming
those other guys come back. I get it, but.
Right.
I don't know. To me, we'll see. I think Tampa's involved in that too. I think Columbus will be too.
Columbus makes sense.
Yeah, Columbus is a team that's going to.
And Tampa does too, because we don't know when Stamkos is going to be back. They say it could be like mid to late March. I think that they're probably going to wait until the playoffs and put him. He's on LTIR right now, and they're going to spend that money on acquisitions like Hansel, and then bring him back in the playoffs.
But here's the thing, and again, I always ask this question about Arizona. They did do a rebuild. They seem to be behind the Leafs, and they seem to be on the level or even a smidge behind the Sabres as far as being a respectable team. And I just kind of wonder, when is that going to occur for them?
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's a really good point. I think they are going about it a very different way than the Leafs or Sabres went about it. And
They
they're
don't have
taking an odd amount of patience considering the market. They've the last couple years they've since they got assured that they were going to stay there, have definitely taken a different attitude than before when they had to basically survive day to day.
Well, they don't have as many resources.
Hansel, I mean, when we look at it, sorry, Mike. Hansel is a center who could score 20 goals a year. He's got 10, so he definitely could score 20. He's got 111 in his career. He's 29 years old. He only makes $3.5 million. It's not like this is a guy that you have to move out because he's making too much money or you can't possibly re-sign. That's the part that makes me wonder.
But this is the philosophy of the Coyotes, Russ, is the fact that, because they had Bodker and they had Hansel last year, and they traded Bodker, and Bodker went to San Jose. They can finish 30th or 29th without him.
Right.
I mean, they do have Dylan Strome coming around. They're going to have Dvorak coming around. They're going to have, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank right now, but the American kid, the American kid, the real promising kid in the World Juniors.
For Arizona?
Yeah.
Oh, why am I blanking out?
We were very high on him in the draft, and they took
Clayton Keller.
Clayton Keller. They have Clayton Keller. So, I mean, they've got guys in the pipeline, but right now they don't have the resources that Buffalo and Toronto have in terms of financial resources.
But here's the thing about the pipeline. It is great to have that pipeline, right? But at the end of the day, you're still going to have a 30-year-old, a 31-year-old on your team to mix with these guys. And he's a good guy to have because he's got size and he's a center and he has scoring ability.
Yeah.
Like, this is a guy, like, to me, I have to think twice about trading. I really would, but they're going to trade him. I mean, I know
they're talking to him, and they're probably saying to him, listen, do you want to go someplace? We want you back. They're probably good. And this is the kind of GM, from what I've heard, I'm talking to people that he would probably take that chance. Like there are GMs in the league who are afraid to take that chance because they think once somebody goes someplace else, they won't want to come back.
Don Maloney did it with Antoine Vermette. He traded him to Chicago. He won a Stanley Cup. He came back. He signed in Arizona. But then you got to remember,
it doesn't suck to live in Arizona. No. I mean, just like that's something you have to throw out there. Like, I mean, it really just players will tell you, like it's not that.
Especially if you like scorpions, yeah.
It's not that hard to convince guys to live in Arizona. It really isn't. So as long as you as long as the team is on the right track, and they obviously are on the right track, there might be a little behind.
Here's the thing. Okay, I have to bring this up because it's easy to give Arizona credit for certain things. I think they've made some good picks.
Yeah.
They had 35 wins last year. They have 15 right now. They're not even going to get close to what they did last year.
Yeah.
So they're going to get another high pick. And then what is it going to be for next year? What's the outlook for next year? Well, we're still building. Okay. So then they're going to go 4 spots higher. Maybe they'll do like what the Leafs did last year. And then they're going to get another high pick. But they're still not going to spend enough money. They're not going to hold on to play. Like, there is a cycle that doesn't help you in that circumstance.
And in 2 years, I'm pretty sure 2 years, Oliver Ekman-Larsson's contract is up.
Right. And the meter's running on that. And so they're in dangerous territory with this because as good as their system is, they don't have another Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Very few teams do.
No. Right. And I mean, they're going to be moving a lot of players. It looks like Shane Doan's going to go too. So I mean, they're going to be moving players out.
I get. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, he has been that guy for them that you're talking about forever, and he's been that solid veteran, which has helped them. But at some point, he wants to win. And I heard his name with Nashville this morning briefly. I'm going to check more into it. I know that's a team that he likes, and I know Mike Fisher.
I can see that. I could see that under the Laviolette system. That would actually make sense.
Yeah, Fisher and Doan are very tight.
San Jose would make sense. LA would make sense.
Yeah.
Anaheim
would be interesting.
Anaheim, right, Peter?
I don't know if I see him in LA, but maybe. That's all the time we have for today, guys. Thanks so much for joining us, Peter, as always.
Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. And we will be back again tomorrow. Remember, without the buzz, guys, it's just hockey. We'll talk to you soon.